Good afternoon. I wanted to tell my story. I've told a few people, but I think it's maybe important to put this out there now. I think a lot of people are kind of questioning what life is about right now. Certainly in lockdown, things have been pretty difficult. But I'm here to tell you a very positive story, hopefully. So, looking back to 2013 now, I thought that my whole world had fallen apart. I was then a primary school teacher and I started to have real health problems. And I ended up in a situation where I couldn't do my teaching job anymore. And essentially I was pensioned off well before retirement age, because I just couldn't do the job anymore. I was suffering with chronic fatigue syndrome, and essentially everything just fell apart, everything crumbled. And I hadn't planned for that, and that was the thing. I hadn't planned to end my teaching career at that point. I certainly hadn't planned for my partner at the time to call time on the relationship. And because it wasn't my house, it was my home, but it wasn't my house, I suddenly found myself homeless. So there I was, in my mid-50s, in a situation where I had no job, my health had failed, my partner had decided that we shouldn't be together anymore, and I lost my home. So it's just like everything. It's just everything, all in one foul swoop. It was just unbelievable. So now, I will say this, I'm not telling you so that, you give me loads of sympathy. I don't need that, because there's actually a good end to this story. So, although it appears that everything at that time was pretty dire, and I must admit, when you're in the thick of something like that, whereas, so many people have gone through these things, it's like you can't see the end, the light at the end of the tunnel. Anyway, so 2 years later, struggling like anything, even to get out of bed, going shopping, living on my own in a rented flat, all of that stuff. And I just kept thinking, Paul, this isn't you. Paul, this isn't you. I knew that there had to be a better way to do things, rather than what I had been doing. And then in 2014, I think it was around about February time, a friend of mine put a little advert on Facebook, and it was saying that he just joined a company called Herbalife, and I did know of Herbalife from previous experience, and I just wondered, whether those products would give me the energy that I needed. And long story short, within a few months, I started to change, and people saw that I was changing. And I just remember so many people would come up to me and say, Paul, what are you doing? What are you doing? There was this guy who, for 2 years, had been near death's door, not able to do anything. I'd stopped doing my tennis and my running and my gym sessions. I just, I couldn't do any of it. And then for 2 years, I was, as I say, pretty much bedridden. I would get up, but the slightest task would tire me out. And then suddenly, after these 2 years, I started on the products, and people came to me and said, what are you doing? They just couldn't believe the difference. And it was really that started my Herbalife business. People recognised that something in me that they actually wanted as well. They wanted that extra energy and so on. Now, a lot of people say, well, what about the money? What about the money? Tell me about the money. But do you know what? Obviously, the extra income is always going to be useful. And I think if there's anyone watching this and they say, well, they don't want extra income, well, what do you think? I think everyone could do with a bit of extra income, don't you? And so that is obviously one benefit to the business. But I think the thing that I have found even more beneficial than that is what I have become. So the personal development and the training that we receive is just second to none. I know that I have become a better person through being involved in Herbalife. And also, it's the friends. The guy that sponsored me, in fact, is working in my house right now. He's a carpenter. He's the guy that became my sponsor in the business. And we are such great friends. He was my best man at my wedding. But he's just one out of so many people that I've met doing this business who I can count as really, really good friends. So that part of it is really important to me as well. And so, what else can I tell you? I sometimes say to people, no, never look back. Never look back unless you want to see how far you've come. And I must admit, when I look back now and see how far I've come, I feel pretty good about that because I have come a long way. And I think there's a lot of people out there, perhaps at the moment, maybe you're one of them, I've no idea, who might think, life is not giving me what I want. I'm not fully living the life that I'm put on this planet to be living. So anyway, what I would suggest is that you do think about, what is it that you want in your life? I imagine if we ask lots of people right now, there would be so many ideas about, the things that are not quite right in their life at this moment in time. Whether it's around money, whether it's around the ideal relationship, whether it's the home that they're living in, whether it's the car they're driving, whether it's their health or whatever. There's so many things. But do you know what? There's one thing that they need to do. Is make a decision. Because, as Jim Rohn often used to say, for things to change, you have to change. So for things to change, you have to change. And it is all about just making one simple decision. That decision is then going to take you to the next step. The next thing that maybe you need in the process of developing you to become who you want to be. And that is pretty exciting, I think. With myself, obviously it was a bit of a blank canvas because it's like, well, everything had disappeared out of my life. Essentially, all I was left with what I'd got here in my heart, what I got here in my head, and what I was actually carrying in the rucksack that I walked out with. It's just crazy thinking back. I'll tell you what though, I will always be grateful to that little advert on Facebook that brought me into this business. And yes, I was really skeptical about, would these products give me greater health? Would they, because that's what I was told. It'll give me more energy, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, look, the only way that I can test this whole thing out is just to try it. And that's what I did. I just thought, okay, I'm just going to sign up. I'm going to get some products, get a bit of discount on them, and let's go from there. And I just think back, what the heck would my life look like if I hadn't taken that decision? And since that time, I remember there was a quote, and I've got to try and think exactly what it was. It was Richard Branson, and he said, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you're not sure if you can do it, say yes and then work out later what to do. And that's kind of what I did, really, because there was I, an ex-teacher, thinking, how the heck am I going to develop a business? I knew that you had to obviously have something to do with sharing your story, sharing your products, and all of that sort of stuff. And I thought, I've no idea what to do. But that thing that we call a comfort zone, I had to get out of it. But what I realised was, and this was the amazing thing, and again, I will always be so grateful for, outside of my comfort zone, there was someone standing there holding out their hands and just waiting for me to accept that. And that's what I did. That's all I did. I made that decision, and I just went for it. I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm so glad that I did it. So now I have got this huge goal that I've set myself, and that is to help. It seems like a bit of a crazy number, but I thought 2020, that sounds like a good number. So I want to help 2020 people to actually start living the life that they really want to live. And so thank you for listening. I hope that you got some kind of value from this. And the biggest lesson perhaps is that it doesn't matter what our past is like. It doesn't necessarily equal our future. We can go forward and create whatever we want to create. Okay, so just one last thing. Remember, it's just one decision. I'm holding my hand out to you. Bye for now.